NHL insiders are linking the Toronto Maple Leafs to Sharks forward Timo Meier. We'll discuss that potential trade. We also have some updates on the Horvat trade situation. Could Jonathan Toews be moved before the deadline to his hometown team as well in Winnipeg? Plus, we also have some updates on Columbus, Ottawa, the Bruce Boudreau coaching situation in Vancouver. We also have more news on Max Pacioretty. He was badly injured again. All that and more coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have a variety of NHL news and some trade rumors to look at today. First up, I want to acknowledge Ryan Miller, of course, a longtime NHL goaltender, arguably one of the greatest, if not the greatest, Sabres goalie in franchise history. Right up there anyways with all the greats that have played in Buffalo. The number 30 he wore was retired last night, and they celebrated him and retired his number. So certainly want to congratulate Ryan Miller on a great career. Of course, he went on to play also in a few other places like Vancouver and Anaheim. Miller was certainly one of the greats of his era for sure, in a well-deserved number retirement. We also seen a fine from last night's action. The game between the Montreal Canadiens and the Florida Panthers certainly had its fair share of extracurricular activities, we could say. Lots and lots of fights, all kinds of rough stuff. Defenseman Mike Matheson of Montreal was fined $5,000 for interference on Eric Staal. Essentially, the puck was shot down in the Montreal zone. Matheson was chasing the puck down. Staal was a little bit behind him. Before they ever got to the puck, Matheson stopped up and kind of did like a reverse hit on Staal, and there was head contact. I'm so honestly surprised there was no call in the play, and I'm surprised that it wasn't more than just a fine, to be completely honest. You know, it's obviously wasn't anything, I don't think it was intentional, but it certainly worked out poorly for Staal, who did leave the game due to injury. Speaking of injuries, Max Pacioretty, who was out of action for like 6 months with an Achilles tendon tear, has been back for 2 weeks, playing very well. And last night it happened again on the exact same Achilles tendon. It was very weird and random. I'm not sure what happened. Clearly, it was probably an accident waiting to happen, because Max Pacioretty did not have contact with anything. There was no skate, that got in the way, like nothing like that. It was just he was near the net on his own, played the puck, and then you could see him bring his leg up in a lot of pain and discomfort. He went down to the ice, had to be helped off, and the Carolina Hurricanes have confirmed just earlier, a couple hours ago, that it is indeed an Achilles tendon tear again. So he will be out long term. Fair to say his season's done. Those are typically 6-month recoveries or more. I don't know, based on the fact that it just happened, and obviously the tendon was reattached. I don't know how bad of a tear it was before compared to now. I don't know a lot of the logistics, but this does not bode well for Max Pacioretty making a full-time return to hockey. I don't know if this is going to be career-threatening in any way, but the fact that he's had 2 tears on the same one so close together only 2 weeks after coming back makes you wonder what this means for the future of Pacioretty. Another player who's missed time lately due to injury, then obviously had a healthy scratch situation causing a lot of questions and a little bit of uproar within the fan base. Matthew Joseph in Ottawa. He is back in the lineup tonight as the Senators play the second part of their home-and-home series with the Pittsburgh Penguins. Elliot Friedman did touch on this on the 32 Thoughts podcast that came out this morning. And he said that he's been kind of checking around, and many people have assumed, which I did as well, that Joseph must have violated some sort of team rule or policy and missed a meeting, late for a breakfast. Who knows what it was? A lot of people assumed it was something of that nature, and DJ Smith obviously felt like he had to discipline the player, but at the same time didn't want to embarrass him, so he didn't want to elaborate, which is good in a way. Like, certainly shows that he's trying to protect him, but he can't ignore the situation either. Certainly on a night that was supposed to be his first time ever playing his brother, with 50 family and friends in attendance. I'm sure DJ did not want to do that, but he felt like he had no choice. But Friedman went on to say that he doesn't think it's actually a team rule violation or something like that. He thinks it is something happened that they had to deal with, but it's something completely different. And then if he knows anything further, he's not elaborating. So interesting. I don't know if we'll ever know what it is, but the fact is that Matthew Joseph has owned it. He's dealt with it. And he's back in the lineup tonight. But just weird to think, I don't know what it could be. If it's not a team rule or team policy violation, what the heck could have happened? I guess maybe we'll never know. Hard to say. The All-Star voting portion of the All-Star selection process has been complete, and they've announced the NHL has the vote-in winners, which is confusing for some in the Atlantic Division. The Atlantic Division vote-in players are Austin Matthews, David Pastrnak, and Vasilevsky is the goalie in Tampa. I know not that Matthews and Pastrnak don't deserve to be there. They certainly do. They're having great seasons, great players. But I know online, and a lot of people have said this, that it was Tim Stützle in Ottawa and Cole Caulfield in Montreal who pretty much get all the Twitter attention. And the fact they were actually letting Twitter be a part of the vote, you can go in and take a look at all the attention those players were getting. It's hard to imagine that they didn't get, either of them didn't get a spot. I know there's a lot of people questioning the validity of it. I don't know. I mean, I would like to think that those things aren't fixed or rigged, of course, but I mean, it does make you wonder. I mean, I know personally I've seen a ton of attention for those players. I'm sure Matthews and Pastrnak certainly had their fair share of votes too, but I don't know. I honestly think the NHL should release the voting results. That would probably help settle down some of those questions or concerns. In other divisions, we saw the Avalanche get Rantanen and McKinnon both voted in, along with Connor Hellebuyck, the goalie in Winnipeg. There'll be the extra 3 players that would get the vote in from the Central. In the Pacific, it's Bo Horvat in Vancouver, Draisaitl in Edmonton, and Stuart Skinner also from Edmonton. Good on Skinner to get his first All-Star selection. And, of course, in the Metro, a couple of Rangers that are Temi Panarin and Adam Fox, and New York Islander goalie Ilya Sorokin. So those are your additional members of the NHL All-Star teams. Now, onto the potential coaching change coming in Vancouver. It doesn't even seem like it's potential. It seems like it is happening. I think everybody's confirmed it is Rick Tocchet that's going to be the next head coach. It's a matter of time. I really feel bad for Bruce Boudreau. I don't care what the Canucks and Jim Rutherford think of him as a coach. He seems like a great person. And to me, they're treating him like absolute garbage. And there's no need of it. Although the public shots that Rutherford has taken at him, and the fact that there's so much speculation and insiders confirming that Rick Tocchet's going to be the next coach. They've known this for a while. I know he was asked this morning about because they have a back-to-back this weekend, what this means to him, if he's kind of savoring it. And he got emotional and couldn't even talk. You can tell the guy's heartbroken. It's bad enough he's going to lose his job, but to know that far ahead, it just, I don't know, it's just wrong on how they're treating him. Like, it's fine if you want to make a coaching change. I think he understands it's a business. Of course he does. He's been at this a really long time. I'm sure he knows better than just about anybody. But there's just no need of the way they've publicly humiliated him, in my opinion. Obviously Bruce Boudreau didn't go on the ice this morning for practice either, which kind of created a stir. People wondering if maybe he was let go. And I kind of wonder if Boudreau kind of played right into that and kind of maybe did it on purpose, because apparently it's not completely unusual for him to not go on the ice and to let one of his assistants run the practice. So I wonder if he might have done it just to kind of create a stir. Makes you wonder. I don't know. I just know the change is coming. It could be any time now that he's announced as being let go and Tocchet's announced as being hired. I just really feel for the guy on a personal level based on how it's been handled. Really, that's all there is to it. I don't know. I just feel bad for Bruce. He just seems like such a good guy. Hate to see him done dirty like that. Columbus Blue Jackets defenseman Vladislav Gavrikov has been getting a lot of attention in the trade rumor mill. The Jackets feel like they can get a pretty good return on him. One of the other reasons he's mentioned so much in the rumor mill that we're found out as well is it's being reported that he does not have interest in re-signing with Columbus. So he intends to explore the market as a UFA when we get to the summertime, which is partly part of the reason why Columbus feels they need to move him, because they know they're not getting another contract done. So obviously a player that you can pretty much guarantee will be dealt. It could be a first-round pick or more for this player, given what we've seen in guys like Savard and Sherratt and other guys in recent deadlines generate for deadline defenseman deals. So we'll have to see where he ends up going, but that explains more of the speculation on him. The Ottawa Senators are certainly in the market for a defenseman. We've known that for some time. Pierre Dorion has not pulled the trigger, has not found his man. Interestingly enough, he was in Ottawa the day before, but last night he was in L.A. He obviously flew out to Los Angeles yesterday and was at the game, of course, before the game time. I know Dennis Bernstein, the fourth period, was reporting that there was 3 GMs at the game last night. Of course, both GMs for the teams playing, including Dallas and LA, and Dorian as well. So speculation arose as who he might be taking a look at. Of course, he does have a scouting background and likes to make these trips to get his eyes on players himself. I personally would think it's more likely LA, not Dallas, that they're looking at. I mean, Dallas has some guys like Miller and Hakanpää, etc. I don't see them moving those guys, though, whereas LA's had speculation about moving either Sean Walker or Matt Roy. There's some that think maybe Sean Durzi. I would think probably not. I think Ottawa wouldn't mind taking a look at Durzi, but I wouldn't think that they would want to move him given the age difference and everything like that. I think it's going to be Roy or Walker that goes. They're both right-shot defensemen. They both have, not a lot of term, but enough to get them through a next little bit here in the NHL level. And they don't come super expensive, and they're the kind of defenseman that they want to have a little bit of grit and a little bit of defensive ability. So I'm not sure if he'll end up pulling the trigger with a deal with the Kings, but right now things are looking like that's what he's looking at least considering it. Now, Elliotte Friedman and others are reporting that things have really heated up on Bo Horvat. Doesn't sound like a deal is imminent just yet, but he says that the Vancouver Canucks appear to be in a situation where they may not want to wait to do this. Of course, he and Jeff Meier talked about the 32 Thought podcast talking about how Rutherford does have a history of being aggressive and getting a lot of his business done ahead of the deadline. So this is not unusual for Rutherford at all. As far as we know so far, Horvat and his agent have not been given consent to speak to any other teams about a potential extension, but it is believed that a lot of teams that are in the Horvat sweepstakes, if you will, are interested in that and may request that before they're willing to pull the trigger. Some are willing to do it as a rental. Some are willing to only do it if they can get him signed. A couple of teams to look at include New Jersey, Seattle, Vegas, and others. Look at Boston as well. Boston keeps getting brought up as a potential good landing spot. It does make a lot of sense, but Friedman is convinced, and I agree with him, that Boston, it would be really, really tough for them to pull off, and I don't know that they have the assets or the cap management to be able to manage that kind of deal. It would be really, really difficult for Boston, as much as it does make a lot of sense for them. Vegas would be tricky as well, but I think they would figure that out. Seattle and New Jersey as well makes sense. The Kraken, if they get him, they're going to want to get him on an extension, I think. I don't know if they'd want to do a rental. The Hurricanes are another team that's been mentioned, but again, they don't typically do expensive rentals either. I think Carolina would only be interested, again, if they could get an extension completed. But things have intensified with Horvat. We're not quite there yet, of course, but Friedman basically said that the teams are getting more serious and letting the Vancouver Canucks know that they're upping their offers, and Rutherford's got a history of being aggressive, so it makes sense that we might see something in the near future here. Maybe a few days, it could drag on longer. It's really difficult to say, but things are intensifying. TSN's Pierre LeBrun is reporting that the Maple Leafs are likely going to be considered one of the front runners for Sharks forward Timo Meier. He feels the Leafs can get Meier and get him extended. Now, that's going to likely require them moving money out somewhere else, of course, but certainly he would be a good fit and really solidify that top six. Of course, he'd have to agree to a contract well under that $10 million qualifying offer. But word is between LeBrun and Elliotte Friedman, they're reporting that essentially if the Sharks are willing to let teams talk to Meier about an extension, but only once they have an offer that they like. So if you get to the point with the Sharks in negotiations that you put an offer on the table that they like and they would want to consider, they will then at that point consider letting the agent and the player talk to the other team about a potential contract extension. Of course, it's going to have to be under that $10 million qualifying offer that he'll be due if they don't, if he makes it to RFA status in the offseason. We'll have to wait and see on that. But certainly interesting to note that Timo Meier would be a tremendous pickup. But they also believe that the Leafs are likely going to add on the blue line as well, and maybe more than one forward. I mean, if they can get creative enough with the salary cap situation, then they will make multiple additions. They also feel, like I said before, this is a big year for the Leafs. Austin Matthews enters the final year of his contract. If they have another first-round exit, I really think there will be more substantial change coming. It's the last year of Kyle Dubas's contract as well, and I don't know that he'll get extended if they don't have at least some playoff success. So we'll have to wait and watch the situation. But certainly, Meier to the Leafs is something that does make sense, and a lot of NHL insiders have been picking up the rumors on that, saying how they are expected to be heavily involved. So we'll have to wait and see on that front. Obviously, when it comes to the Sharks, besides the Leafs and Meier, we're looking at teams like the Devils, the Rangers, and the Hurricanes are in the mix. The Hurricanes seem to be in on everybody. Obviously, they won't end up making all those trades, but they will likely get one of those top players. Also, when it comes to Jonathan Toews, Elliot Friedman's wondering about the return of Jonathan Toews to his hometown city of Winnipeg, Manitoba. Of course, the Winnipeg Jets are having a fine season. Should be a fairly high-ranked team for the NHL Western Conference playoffs, and they could certainly use a player in the top 6, top 9 with Toews' experience level to really help them improve their squad and be ready for the NHL playoff matchup. So it does make sense that the Jets would look to their hometown player in Jonathan Toews as a potential pickup. We'll have to see where this goes, of course. Jets aren't going to be the only team in the mix. I would think the Avalanche and the Hurricanes, as I mentioned, are, they're in on everybody. I mean, doesn't mean Don Waddell's going to make 3 or 4 massive deals. I think he'll make at least one, though. And obviously, between one of these top players, whether it be Horvat or Toews or, Tarasenko's another one, especially with the Hurricanes having Max Pacioretty go back on long-term injury reserve because he's going to be done for the season now. That's pretty much a given. That they're going to have a lot of spending ability through the LTIR pool, that whether they turn to Horvat or Tarasenko or one of those players, or Jonathan Toews, for example, it does make a lot of sense that they'll be big players at the deadline and can get one of those top players to try to really push themselves to a potential Stanley Cup. So let me know your thoughts on all of that down in the comments. We'll discuss further. If you're new to the channel, of course, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with the latest news, rumors, and analysis of all 32 NHL teams. Thank you for watching, and I will catch you next time.